You can go tell anyone, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Any old lady at the grocery store is going to know what that means. You could walk around and tell everyone you're an ADCC champion and people are going to say, what is ADCC? There's no pay for the Olympics, right? Like, you don't try to win the Olympics to get some big prize money.
UFC Wrestling has a fund for the athletes.
Wrestling will pay you, but the Olympics doesn't pay you.
Doesn't, yeah.
If this is a one-time thing, if this CGI was a one-time thing, I burned my bridge with ADCC, so now's a good time to open the gym, right?
Does it come with any benefits of any kind to be ranked number 1, 2, or 3?
Your bio on Instagram, that's it. The guys that are ranked number 1 in the world could get a match and get paid, $5,000 or $10,000, and Craig Jones could be unranked and make $100,000. What really matters is that people want to see you compete in our sport.
A lot of the number 1 guys in wrestling, these dudes are making real money now.
Are we talking $100,000?
Yeah, for sure.
I do think it's safe to say there's more opportunity and more money in wrestling. What's up, guys? Let's get ready to slide in the DMs.
Oh my God, bro.
It's the Deron and Mason show.
It's terrible, dog.
It's the Deron and Mason show, episode 1.
Wait, cut. No,
Nah, let it keep going. That's gonna be our intro right there. I'm gonna be like this. Slide in the DMs.
Oh. You guys are gonna get canceled before episode 1.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm worried about getting canceled here, actually.
I know I gotta watch what I say, bro. Yeah, it's the Deron and Mason show. Mason Fowler, Deron Winn, and our producer Andrew.
Yo.
And this is our first episode, so hopefully you guys like it.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
I'm Deron Winn, and I have a lot of claims to fame, but my favorite one is being the only blue belt in the world that submitted Mason Fowler. So I'll just
I think you submitted me. I think you submitted me when you were a white belt, bro.
I was a white belt.
I think you were a white belt. Yeah.
I was a white belt. Yeah, I'm still a blue belt. Who promoted me?
Me, dog. I'm your master.
No, Brian did. Right?
I'm your master,
Brian?
bro.
No, you're not. Stop. You're not.
I actually shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that.
I'm not you, bro. So don't do that. Just because you let Kyle talk to you like that doesn't mean I'm gonna let you talk to me like that.
I'm gonna come give you your next belt, so that way you have to call me professor.
I need to, bro. I need that purple belt. Andrew, you're a white belt?
Yeah, dude. I am a year and a half in. I did kind of sandbag for about 5 months, kind of build in this room that everybody's watching right now. But I started picking things back up. And I'm getting ready to compete in 8 days, actually. And if all goes well, this will be my last competition at white belt. But just a quick background on me. I've been producing podcasts for over 6 years now. Just a fan of like fitness and podcasting, and now grappling. And it just like every middle-aged dude who's like finds jiu-jitsu, the bug bit me really, really bad. And I did go through that point where like everything was jiu-jitsu, like getting out of bed, I'm gonna shrimp out and do all these stupid things, So a lot of the questions that I'm gonna have for Mason and Deron and potentially any other guest might annoy the heck out of upper belts, because I'm gonna be asking those white belt questions that like stop class, like why is this guy asking that question again? It's obvious the answer. But, something I learned from Jason Khalipa, having that white belt mentality kind of all the time. I am going to ask the basic questions because, one, I do need to learn, but also there's a lot of people like me that are just getting into the game. And so while it might annoy some of the more experienced grapplers in the house, these are questions that a lot of us do have. And I am pretty like happy and proud to ask these questions, because it's like when I ask the questions, instead of just assuming the answer, because when we start to assume stuff, that's when we assume wrong. Getting clarification from guys like you, and it's super helpful, and it helps my learning. And yeah, dude, my jiu-jitsu game's feeling really good right now. Again, I'm still a white belt, but I'm just having a lot of fun learning, and through podcasts like this, like I've asked Mason a bunch of questions on other podcasts, and it's just super like, I don't know, man. I take advantage of every opportunity I get, and so that's what I'll be doing here on this show. And so again, hopefully I don't annoy too many people, but hopefully I help a lot more than annoy, I should say.
I will say probably most of the jiu-jitsu community in general is white belts, just because like people are more likely to stop training at blue belt or at purple belt. So, 90% of the people listening might be white belts. So don't ever feel like you have a stupid question or anything like that.
Yeah, I got something to piggyback off that, Andrew, actually. You know, from like 2011 to really like 2017, I was like on the Olympic level, like a circuit, the national team circuit. And so if you made the national team, you had to go to like X amount of national team camps every year to be able to get your like stipend, your paycheck. And so, you know, we'd probably go to like 5 or 6 a year at the Olympic Training Center. And really it was like 2014, 2015. Jordan Burroughs was like on his run. He had won like 2 or 3 or 4 in a row, world titles, Olympic titles. And we'd be at national team camp. And like when the coach would show technique, he would ask questions. And I'm like, for a little while, I'd look at him. I'm like, is this dude just doing that to like, because he quickly became like the face of USA Wrestling. And I watched him evolve in a way that I'm not sure that I've seen any other man evolve. Like he went from I'm not saying average guy, but like, you know, college guy who liked to, you know, go out, have fun, whatever, to being, you know, a man of God, you know, great husband, great dad, and the face of USA Wrestling. But what I'm getting at is he would ask these questions, and I know that I think me and a couple other dudes would actually joke about it, like, oh, look at this dude, bro, like Brown knows him, you know? But then the more I like was around him and saw him from time to time ask these questions, it was just because he was genuinely trying to understand what was going on. Like he wanted to make sure that his game was on top. So I feel like for me, and this is something I tell my kids that I coach, it's like, ask questions, bro. If Jordan Burroughs can ask questions, anybody can ask questions, you know? So don't feel dumb, and it doesn't even matter because the combat sports world anyway is full of a bunch of pussies. But they're gonna talk
and just stupid people in general.
They're stupid people, bro. So I've become. I'm sure you've become desensitized to it too, but I've become desensitized to it since, you know, fighting in the mainstream, fighting in the UFC and stuff. It's just it's not worth your time to worry about what other dudes are thinking about you. You know.
Yeah. So I just have a funny interaction on social media that I want to tell you guys about. Funny interaction lately. There's this video that I came across of maybe like a high school or like a college wrestler that was trying to call out Mikey Musumeci. You know who that is, right? Deron, the little jiu-jitsu guy.
I watched his last fight and won.
Yeah, he's you know, one of the top pound for pound jiu-jitsu guys right now. And when he starts every match, he sits to his butt. He plays guard. But what people don't know is that when he was younger, he used to wrestle. He might have wrestled in high school. I'm not sure, but I know he definitely wrestled at some point when he was younger. And from what I've heard from people that know him, he actually has like okay wrestling for a jiu-jitsu guy, right? But anyways, you know how a lot of the wrestling community is whenever someone, or not just the wrestling community, but we could say the MMA community in general, they hate butt scooting and people that just sit to their butt and scoot towards the guy and play guard. So there was someone on social media that made a video of Mikey calling him out, challenging him to like a wrestling match, right? Which is ridiculous because it's like a no-name guy that's trying to get clout off of Mikey's fame. It would never make sense for Mikey to accept something like that with this person. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I commented on the video and I said, yeah, I also challenged Floyd Mayweather to a Muay Thai fight. And he still hasn't gotten back to me, right?
Yeah.
There were people that were replying to me and saying, serious. Why would Floyd ever take a fight against you? You're a nobody.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no,
guys,
it blows my mind, bro.
People they're just dumb.
Yeah. It blows my mind that when people can't like understand that you're joking. Like, this is a joke.
I'm not trying to fight Floyd Mayweather, bro.
Yeah. This is a joke, bro.
But
I don't even do Muay Thai. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd win for sure.
For sure.
In a Muay Thai fight?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm kicking his legs, bro. I'm winning, bro.
We did kind of blow over it really, really quickly. And just in case, if somebody doesn't know who Mason Fowler is, can you just quickly run through a couple of things? I know you were like, I think the number one overall heavyweight, or I'm sorry, I get all that stuff confused, but just really quick, can you let me know who you are just in case I don't know who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professional jiu-jitsu competitor. I used to be a professional MMA fighter. I stopped doing MMA to pursue jiu-jitsu. I'm currently ranked, somewhere in the top 3. Some rankings have me ranked number 1 in the world at 205 pounds. Some have me ranked, somewhere around that top 3. I've been ranked in the top 3 in the world at heavyweight in the gi. So yeah, I do gi, no gi, and travel, teach, and compete in jiu-jitsu.
Similar to like some of those pound for pound rankings in MMA, like I've heard Joe Rogan talk about like how they're just like so way off, like who the heck is actually creating these? I have no idea who's making those for jiu-jitsu. Do you guys know like where those come from?
Yeah, so the most popular ranking system, I would say we don't have like one set ranking system for jiu-jitsu because there's so many different promotions, right? So it's really easy in MMA because you have the UFC, which regularly has the top 10 best fighters in the world, and you can just pretty much go off the UFC ranking system. Jiu-jitsu is not like that. There's a lot of different organizations. All the top guys are kind of spread out between the different organizations. And one of the organizations, which is Flow Grappling, has a ranking system, but obviously whoever's the kind of champion or the best guys at Flow Grappling are going to, get a little bit of favoritism. They're going to rank their own champions higher than everyone else, right? So, for example, I recently had a match with one of the Flow Grappling champions and beat him pretty handily. I submitted him, which is in a jiu-jitsu match is pretty much like a knockout, right? It's like a big way to win. And after I submitted him, they still had him ranked number 1, and then they had me ranked number 4. Like,
which is crazy.
They put me to number 4. Yeah. So that's why I say like some ranking systems have me ranked number 1. Some might not have me ranked number 1. It may or may not be because of bias. Who knows? But
yeah, and then
wrestling's the same way. Flow Wrestling's probably the top ranking system in wrestling as well. But it's like, and then it's like a committee of dudes who, I mean, they're at this point, Flow Wrestling, and I'm sure Flow Grappling the same way. They're essentially fans who ended up getting a job working at this company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them wrestled. Now a lot of them wrestled, and I don't know about Flow Grappling, but and they're like wrestling. I don't want to call them nerds because I don't want to be like rude or whatever, but basically like they're wrestling specialists.
Like fans, like super fans.
Yeah, super fans. They're wrestling super fans. They're grappling super fans. And then they, I don't know if there's like an actual system of what they do, but I think head to head and then competition wise, like if you compete at this national tournament or this national tournament, it all goes together, So, and you never know. And there's obviously favorites. There's favoritism and everything. And that's just how it goes, bro.
Does it come with any benefits of any kind to be ranked number 1, 2, or 3, especially in grappling sports where, I mean, I guess, yeah, there are champions, right? Like you can have like flows like champions or whatever it may be. But, thinking about like the bigger tournaments like ADCC or now the CJI, does it even matter? Like, is that something that a grappler will strive to be like, oh, I can't believe they knocked me down to number 4, that sort of thing? Does it matter? Like maybe even with sponsorships, can you like then say like, hey, look, I'm ranked, let's, cut a deal together. Like, is there any benefit to paying attention to those rankings?
Yeah. The only benefit really is so that you can put in your bio that you're ranked number 3 in the world, your bio on Instagram. That's it. It monetarily doesn't matter. The guys that are ranked number 1 in the world could get a match and get paid, $5,000 or $10,000, and Craig Jones could be unranked and make $100,000. So what really matters is that people want to see you compete in our sport. That matters more so than, actually being ranked number one in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, it's a different system in wrestling. So there's 10 weight classes in the world years. So this is the Olympic year 2024. So 2025's world, 2026, 2027. There's 10 weight classes, but in the Olympic year, there's 6 weight classes. So if you are top 3, you get paid. I kind of said this earlier. You get paid by USA Wrestling, but there's no like who's who. There's actually a tournament that decides it, and it sticks that way for an entire year. So you generally wrestle the US Open. You have to qualify for the World Team Trials, and then once you wrestle the World Team Trials, if you win it, if you're on the World Team, you're first, second, and third, and that sticks for an entire year. And the stipend is, they're underpaid, but it's wrestling, man. It's not.
What is it? What is it, like $3,000?
No, bro.
A month?
I know for a long time, and I don't know if they changed it. It was $1,000 to number 1 a month, $750 for number 2, and $500 for third.
I mean, it's better than jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is 0 for number 1, 0 for number 2, and 0 for number 3.
Yeah, but I feel like jiu-jitsu has bigger opportunities in matches and sponsorships and stuff like that, you know?
What do you think a big name wrestler would get paid for like a super fight type match?
So for a while, they just started doing more like super matches right as I was kind of getting out of the scene. And like for me, like, I was making like on average, like $1 to $2,000 a match, a pro match. And really as a wrestler, that was good. But now I know that these dudes are asking for a lot of money, like to wrestle at like Flow, like on a Flow event or something like that, because they're making so much money. I heard like the guy like Kyle Dake got like $50K for a match, but that's like unheard of. And I think
until it isn't, average, right?
What?
It's unheard of until it isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's getting that a year later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like the same aspect of the UFC, right? It's like a lot of dudes in wrestling. I would always say that wrestling is like a poor man's sport, right? You do it for the glory. You don't do it for the pay, except when you start becoming an adult who's trying to support maybe a family or pay your bills. You got to start trying to make money. But at the same time, a lot of these dudes haven't made, they're fresh out of college. They haven't made $2, $3, $4, $5,000 for a match ever. So they're going to take it. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's the same concept with like the UFC guys. It's like a lot of these fighters are broke. And then they offer them $10,000 for a fight, $12,000 for a fight, and they're going to take it. Never seen $12,000 in their life, So, it's kind of like a monopoly, But now, in this day and age, a lot of the number 1 guys in wrestling, when you're talking about like David Taylor's, Kyle Diggs, Gable Stevenson, like when they're wrestling, these dudes are making real money now.
Yeah. And are we talking $100,000? Like Gable, is he making $100,000?
Yeah, for sure. Because here's what it is: these RTCs. So if you're a senior level guy that's going to compete on to the next level, you used to live at the Olympic Training Center, but if you live there, you don't make any money. You live on a complex. You can't have a family. You can't. You know what I mean? You can't. Your girl can't live there. So what's happened in the last like 10 years is these guys go to college. They either stay at their own college or they go to other colleges and compete or train at their RTCs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get paid like a monthly stipend there.
And the RTC sometimes will put them in a house and give them a car.
Yes.
See, we don't have anything like that in jiu-jitsu.
But wrestling's also a college sport. So it's supported by college athletics. So that university's making money off of the sport. There's nobody's making money off wrestling, but they can fundraise for a university as opposed to a gym,
I think because it is a school sport, I do think it's safe to say there's more opportunity and more money in wrestling, at least today.
Yeah, for sure.
The only flip side of
Because
that is that
universities.
it's way easier to start a business, like open a jiu-jitsu academy, I
Yeah.
think, than it is a wrestling academy.
Yeah, it is. Because you're not, the biggest thing about the difference between a wrestling gym and a jiu-jitsu gym is filled with adults who have jobs. And wrestling gyms are filled with kids who want to wrestle or their parents want them to wrestle, and their parents have to pay for it. It doesn't matter how much they love it. If their parent can't afford it, they can't afford it, you know? There's just more money in jiu-jitsu in that sense.
There's way more people after 30 years old that want to do jiu-jitsu that don't want to wrestle.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Like if you have a wrestling class at your jiu-jitsu gym, chances are, people aren't going to show up. It's just hard. It's way harder.
It's hard. And it's because people start in jiu-jitsu, you can start on the ground. So like if I'm old and I'm worried about my knees or back or whatever, I can literally start on my back. In wrestling, you have to start on your feet. And people don't know how to fall, you know? But yeah, I guess to get back to what we're talking about is like, these guys are making a monthly stipend, it's a salary now. And then you're required to help the team in some ways and go wrestle with the team. And, and then your singlet, when you wrestle at tournaments, it shows that, for me, I was at Iowa State. So I wrestled for the Cyclone Wrestling Club. And so I had my sponsor club, Titan Mercury, and then I have to have Cyclone Wrestling Club somewhere on my singlet too. So people know that I trained there at Iowa State too. But yeah.
But with that being said, you still get to be like a full-time athlete.
Yes.
Like your only work responsibility is actually training with the team, which if you're an athlete, you should be doing anyways, right?
Yes.
But it's not like they're like, hey, you got to teach for 2 hours this kids program.
No, it's not like that.
That's a great deal still for an athlete. They just force you to train.
You're like a glorified training partner. Basically.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
It's really the perfect setup for. But now they have the RTC practice too. There's a lot that goes into it. And then now with the NIL deals coming on, it's kind of putting the RTCs in jeopardy. There's a lot to it. The NIL stuff's crazy.
In jiu-jitsu, it's completely different. What happens a lot is, and this happens a lot with people will bring Brazilians in, right? Because there's so many, kids in Brazil that are so good and they just want to come to the US. They just want an opportunity. But the deal that you're going to get, if you're a high level jiu-jitsu athlete, a younger kid in Brazil, the deal that you're going to get in order to come here is, you're probably going to live at the gym. You're not going to have the best living situation. You're going to get the bare minimum. You're not going to get a car. You're going to be able to train at the gym. And then you're going to, either clean the gym or teach the kids class, or you're going to work for your stipend. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So the opportunities for a young wrestling athlete, I think, are way better.
What about?
You essentially can get it. The biggest thing is you can get a college degree.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask, what about longevity though? Right, because just in my town, just outside of Sacramento, it's a smaller town. It's got a lot of people, but I can point to, I think, 3 different jiu-jitsu schools that are, again, like you said, flooded with people of all ages, from, the youngest to, someone like me. I'm 39 years old, and it goes over that. And I can only think of one wrestling academy, which I think is pretty good, because we do have multiple high schools that all have wrestling, programs in them. But we do have one wrestling academy versus multiple jiu-jitsu gyms. Now, granted, that academy is doing great because they have just an influx of kids coming in every single year. But as far as an athlete being in wrestling, what's the longevity like for that athlete?
The longevity part for wrestling, essentially, the end goal is to get a college scholarship, right? So if even if you don't accomplish your dreams in wrestling, you can still have the possibility to get even if it's just some of your college paid for, to earn a college scholarship. And essentially, it's like, even though we're living in, a day and age where you don't necessarily need a college scholarship anymore, a degree, it's also a very safe route to go. If you want to talk about like guaranteed salaries and benefits and stuff like that. So, long-term college scholarship. And also, I tell people this all the time. I tell parents, kids I coach, it's like, at the end of the day, even if your son or daughter doesn't make it to college or doesn't wrestle in college, whatever, at least you'll get better at life too. You know what I'm saying? Wrestling, and I think this goes for all combat sports and really all sports in general, but especially combat sports. It's like, it helps you learn how to deal with adversity and difficult things, discipline, punctuality, being motivated. There's so many things that go into wrestling. I mean, wrestling, to me, wrestling's the greatest sport in the world, but I'm a wrestler,
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that too, like having that positive, that group of positive influences around you. Most people that go to wrestling practices come from like good families. Like we said, the wrestling dads are going to be college educated. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad group of people to surround yourself with. So just having that support group, whether it's just to keep you out of trouble or, to give you opportunities, I'm sure that making those relationships could lead to, you never know whose uncle owns a business that you're going to end up working for, mm-hmm. or this person could help you out, that person could help you out. So just to have that group of people, like that second family to surround yourself with, I think is huge. And then on top of that, once you start getting into high school, I know me personally, I played sports up until 8th grade. And then at that point, for whatever reason, I got out of sports. And the moment that I got out of sports, I started finding myself putting all my energy into all the wrong things, hanging out with the wrong group. And, I wanted to be cool and fit in with a group. And because I didn't play sports and I didn't have my circle around me, the group that I found myself with was, the group of kids that was cutting class to go smoke weed or doing this or that, or like, oh, this kid brought a bottle of alcohol to the school. So I found myself in all those situations, when instead, if I was thinking about, oh, I have a wrestling tournament this weekend, or I have this, or I have that, or I have practice later. Like, no, I can't go and smoke weed. I have wrestling practice later. If I had that, then I think that would have kept me out of all those bad situations. So I definitely think that, and again, we can use this same situation with kids that are going to boxing class or Muay Thai class or Jiu-Jitsu class, combat sports in general. But I think wrestling is so strong because it is a school sport. So mm-hmm. you're going to have all those kids at your school. Yeah. So if someone's doing the wrong thing, and I'm sure as a wrestling coach, Deron, you can attest to this, but I'm sure you're telling the kids like, hey, like don't let whoever, little Jimmy, go and cut class. Like, you guys should be positive influences on him. Yeah. So you're going to have your whole group of friends that's pulling you to do the right things instead of pulling you to do the wrong things.
Yeah. It's all about a culture, a good culture, and a good culture in a community. So it's like, for me, I've lived in 4 different states, like 7 or 8 different cities, and it hasn't ever been a hard transition because I've always been able to join a community as soon as I get there. It's not like I'm just moving there by myself and for a new job or something like that. Yeah, it's a new job, but it's like I'm also surrounded by a gym of people, of adults and kids that I'm around every single day. So it makes it's your second family, obviously I see these people way more than I see my own family at this point. So yeah, it's a good community, good culture. I mean, I say it all the time. Combat sports saved my life, bro, over and over and over again. And I've seen it save other people too. Being with DC and Gilroy, I've watched it save so many kids that, and I'm not saying Gilroy's like a rough city or town or whatever, but it's definitely easy to get stuck on the other side of the tracks over there. And I mean, we've put so many dudes. I mean, I think while I was there in the 6 years with DC, I think we put like 28 kids through school or to school with college scholarships. And those are kids who, you know, depending on and it's not like down in Orange County where I live now, where these dudes got good jobs, they got cash flow, they got, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, you know, middle class, lower class, you know, human beings that are living paycheck to paycheck and don't know what the future is for their kid, you know? So I'll always stay loyal to wrestling, bro.
Yeah, the kind of like the last straw for me to start jiu-jitsu was I had a son, and I just want it to be normal. Like it's normal to eat healthy, good food. It's normal to exercise, and it's normal for us Zaragoza men to do jiu-jitsu. Like that's just what we do. And so, like, in order for me to tell him to do it, I was like, hey, like, you know, I need to do it first, so that way he can just see it. I can't really do that. Well, I mean, I guess I could do it with wrestling, but I do want him to get into wrestling. My biggest fear, because I don't have that connection to wrestling the way wrestlers do, is that he might start it and he might not love it because he doesn't see that his dad loves it. So what would you say for those, like, for the younger athletes that do start wrestling and then they end up falling out, what do you think causes the drop off for them to stop going to like wrestling practice and pursuing it?
So Deron, I actually wrestled in 4th grade.
Really?
So I can just tell you, yeah, I wrestled for like probably less than a month. So my parents brought me into a wrestling class. They told me that I had to at least try it. And I was like your typical, you know who I was? I was that one kid that you hate when he shows up to your practice. Like out of shape, never wrestled before, like just fat, chubby kid, lazy, playing video games all day, eating horrible foods. And like literally for me, it was just like out of pure laziness. It was so hard.
Yeah.
I was so miserable in every practice. They sent me to do a tournament way too early. Competed in a tournament. I just had one match. The kid pinned me in like 10 seconds. I was crying that I didn't want to go back. And then my parents let me quit. They saw me crying that I didn't want to do it and they let me quit. I wish that they were just like, no, like it's not
gotta go.
an option. You have to.
You gotta go.
Like it's going to get easier. You have to keep going. But instead I quit because it was hard and I was lazy. And that's the truth.
The difficulty level is 99% of the time is why people quit. And it's the difficulty plus nothing is promised. Like you could train as hard as you want for a year and then you could go to a tournament and still not win. That I've always said this. There's no way I would wrestle, and this might be, you know, terrible for me to say. There's no way I would have wrestled if I wasn't good. It was too hard to not have success. And so I can see why some kids don't want to. I mean, I see some kids who are just average and they've been average forever and they love it. And they just keep working and they, you know, in the hopes of being the best. I mean, that's just a different type of
And some people just enjoy the process too.
Yeah, that's a different type of human being there. But yeah, that, and obviously one of the biggest things I would say when we're talking about growing the sport of wrestling is the singlets. People don't like singlets. The kids,
no, that's what it was too. Yeah. Because I was fat. I was a fat kid, bro, and I had to wear the singlet, you know? Had my little pee-pee sticking out.
We've tried the two-piece thing for a little while, but it doesn't. I mean, in the mainstream wrestling, it doesn't translate as well. But you know what's crazy to me? And I was just thinking about is like, but in MMA, you're shirtless. So it's like, why does it seem like there's so many more kids who love MMA as opposed to wrestling, but you actually can't wear a shirt?
Well, they love MMA, but that doesn't mean they're going to do MMA and take their. A lot of kids like me, especially, I was like really insecure about my body. Mm-hmm. So I would never take my shirt off in a public setting. Even if I was at the water park or whatever, I would have to have one of those water shirts. I was like a fat kid. Yeah. So the fact that I had to wear that spandex in a public setting.
You wore a shirt to the pool, bro?
I used to wear shirts to the pool, bro. It was bad.
That's crazy, dog.
I could
My
just
bad,
chalk
I'm
it
not
up to me
laughing.
being white and not wanting to get
My bad.
sunburnt,
I'm
though.
not laughing, bro. I'm not laughing.
No, I did. You were a chubby kid too, bro. You were
I was
just
chubby,
you were
but I
you just
owned
let it out.
dog. I was
You
out
owned
there
it.
flexing on him.
I was on the complete opposite side. So I ate like crap growing up too, but I was just extremely skinny. And so I too didn't want to take my shirt off. I would avoid the pool. I wouldn't go in with a shirt or anything, but that's, so again, it kind of goes both ways. I'm on the opposite side. But like, let's say I'm a parent, I come to you and I'm like, hey, my son, before we got here, he was crying. He didn't want to come to practice. I don't want him to quit. What can I do? Do I need to tell him something? Like, is there something we need to do different with practice? Like, what's some advice you can give me as a parent to make sure that my son's not bawling his eyes out when he's getting ready to come to practice?
Get your ass to practice. Like, I think that it's just kind of like what Mason says. It's like, you have to find the median as a parent, and I guess, and I'm not a parent, but I've been around a lot of parents. And I've seen a lot of parents try to navigate their kids. It's like you have to find the median of like, you being unreasonable, and also just putting your foot down and be like, hey, I'm the parent, I'm the adult. I know this is good for you. So even though you can't see that it's good for you right now, I am going to trust that in the future you're going to thank me for not letting you quit.
And then, do you see a correlation between like the starting age as far as like how long they stick with it?
It's so no, there's no correlation there. It's long story short, no. It's
You just got to have the right program. If you can integrate them into the right program, like obviously you don't want to like just be having 4-year-olds do like sprints and push-ups and like hard practices all the time. I think if you make it fun for the younger ages, then it's more likely that they're going to stick around.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, so like even for me, my freshman year of high school, I remember I wanted to quit because it was the first time I had to cut a bunch of weight. And I remember in the middle of the season, I was in my favorite teacher's class, and I was just like, I had to make weight the next day or something like that, and I was just kind of miserable, I'm always I'm always bouncing around. I'm the, if I'm in the room with you, you hear me, And I remember my teacher came up to me and was like, "What's up? Are you okay?" She was like, "You seem so different since wrestling season started." And I just like went in the back with her and I broke down. I remember I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take the rest of this year off. I'm done with this shit. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of cutting weight." And so what I did was I went to one of my teachers was at the junior high. So when I was a freshman, it was 8th and 9th grade. And so you had to ride like an activity bus over to the high school to practice. And so one of my coaches taught there at the junior high, Coach Willis. And I went down there and basically told him like, hey, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm tired of this. But I was a starter. So I rode with him over to the high school. And I basically just like told my whole coaching staff that I was quitting. I was bawling my eyes out. And it was the craziest thing because they didn't really say much, but they were just like, okay, put your shoes on. Like, all right, practice is about to start. Put your shoes on. They didn't give me the option to quit. And it's like wrestling those things. It's like if you quit it and you get away. I mean, I think all combat sports is like if you quit it and get away, it's easy to stay away because this life's easier. Chilling is so much easier.
So much easier, yeah.
It's easy to, even for you, Andrew, it's easy not to go to jiu-jitsu class, probably.
Way easier.
Do you train mornings or at night?
I do mornings, yeah.
Yeah, early.
He does like 6 a.m. class.
Yeah, so I go 5:30 open mat, 6:30 class.
Bro, what? People show up to that?
Yeah, we get some good rounds in the morning. But I have to do that because I got 2 kids and I got a wife and I got stuff I need to do, So again, being on the other side of the grappling sports where I'm fine saying that I'm a casual because I don't do this full time. I have to kind of put my jiu-jitsu around the rest of my schedule. And the only way to make it work is if I wake up really early, get it taken care of, and then do stuff like this, and then go take care of the family and do stuff like that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, shit, that alarm clock goes off at like 3:45, and it's
Unreal.
really easy to go back to bed. It's super
Every
easy.
time you have that thought, right? Like, I could skip today. Every morning, huh?
Dude, I was like, you know what? I got in some really good work on Wednesday, got an extra day on Thursday. Probably going to taper off next week anyways because the comp's coming up. Like, I'll be all right. And I'm like, no, dude, shut up. Like, I literally like told myself to shut up, and I just went and, got ready and I took off. And then you do see that though, right? The blue belt blues, you get the blue belt and then you never see the person again because it is easy to just hit that snooze button. I'll go tomorrow. And then it turns to next week. And then it's like, well, shit, we never saw that guy again. So it makes sense that your coaches were just like, all right, put your shoes on. That's probably the coolest thing I ever heard. And I will definitely take that into, like the way I parent, because being around guys like you and in this space, I pick up so many things that I can implement in the rest of my life. And that's why I love, jujitsu, but I love grappling sports, because that fitness and life, they all run parallel with each other. And you don't get these lessons unless you are actually in the sport or you're around people in the sport at this level. And that's why, again, loving podcasts and hanging out with you guys and that sort of thing, it's just like, I'm going to take advantage of all of it. And it's just like, it's incredible. And it sucks that not many people get to experience this because they're too afraid to go, jump into that jiu-jitsu class or, the wrestling room and that sort of thing. And so I'm really grateful that, I did jump in and started this journey.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And that's like one of the biggest, I guess, points that I talk to the parents about that I coach, the kids I coach, is like, no matter what, even if they only wrestle or they do combat sports, even if they do jiu-jitsu, whatever, for a couple years, they'll automatically be better at life. Automatically.
Yeah, it puts them in the 1% because they're not going to be unhealthy. But then if they learn a skill such as combat sports, it puts them in the 1% of the 1%. And that goes across the board with their health, nutrition, and again, like I said, exercise. And that's stuff that just can't be overlooked as a parent. You shouldn't be just thinking that your bad habits will be fine in your kids. Like, that's just like the worst thing that you could ever do to them. At least give them a chance. And so that's why I love this conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, anything really that's good for you is going to be hard. Like, all of the things that are bad for you are easy. Like snoozing the alarm, staying in bed. Sitting on your phone for an hour. Like, sitting on your phone for an hour is way easier than going to wrestling practice. But like, it's so much easier, right? But it's like, it's not good for you. Yeah. So just to develop those habits of just like getting used to doing hard things, and it gets easier. The more that you do hard stuff, the easier it is to do hard stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just instill that into your kids, every day you're going to do something hard. Like, oh, there's no wrestling practice today. Let's do an ice bath. Like, that sucks. Let's go for a run. Let's do something hard.
Yeah, and it also shows you that, like, everything's better in moderation. Like, okay, sitting on my phone for an hour is really cool, but it's way cooler after you go and work hard and you feel like you earned it and deserved it.
For sure, 100%.
Like, eating some ice cream is really cool, but it's way cooler after you have just got done with a hard workout. It's way cooler to really earn and deserve those things that you want to do on a daily basis. Trust me, it tastes better, it feels better, all that stuff. That's one thing I've learned. And then it changes your whole aspect when you kind of get to the point of, like, I competed my whole life, and now I'm at the point where I don't compete as much anymore, and I have to catch myself on not going to bad habits or being the guy that is trying to be normal now. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not normal. I never have been. And it's challenging when you don't have something to look forward to, That's something that's always kept me, whether it was wrestling or fighting. I always, a few times a year at least, I had a date that I had to be the best version of myself. So at least for 8 to 10 to 12 weeks or something, I had to clean it all up and be the best version of me for a certain outcome. And I mean, they always say, like, people are more addicted to the process than they are to the outcome, you know? And that the process is much more rewarding than the outcome. It's like working hard on a day-to-day basis feels amazing.
Yeah.
Or it's hard, but you're doing it because you know that you're going to go try to accomplish something. And then whether even after you win, and Mason, you'll understand this too, after you win a big fight, it's like you're just sitting there, and it's like a day goes by, 2 days go by, and it's gone. I mean, everything's gone. Like, you get your congrats, you get your hype, you get it, whatever. But when you're in camp and you're training for the process, you get that reward every day. Hey, Good job today, man. You worked hard. Good job at practice today. You worked hard.
Have you ever got like a post tournament, like, I don't want to say depression, but it's like like you get down a little bit?
Yeah. Because everything is so relative these days. There's so much going on in the world and in combat sports that even if it's like we were talking about, like, a title fight, like, it's like what Islam and Dustin fought 2 weeks ago,
and it's already gone.
I haven't talked about it in a week and a half.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like such a high, especially with social media. Like, if you have a big win, you're getting so much dopamine, and everyone loves you, and everyone's telling you good job. Everyone's posting your stuff. Everyone's talking about you. And then, like, literally 3 days later, it just goes to zero.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't want to say depression. It's not depression. Just like a little down, like where I feel my energy lowers. I feel a little more sleepy. And I think it's just because I had such a high of dopamine that, my body just needs to, like, kind of recover for a few days.
Yeah.
Especially if I go on vacation or something after a big match, I always feel a little kind of like off.
Yeah, they call it, like, in powerlifting, like the post-meet blues, right? You worked weeks to try to lift the absolute most you possibly could. And then, like, the next Monday comes in, you're like, what am I doing? And so,
like
you feel
what do we do now?
Yeah, like after a competition. So it's like post-comp blues where you're like, you focused on this one goal. And then, like, especially for me in my scenario where, because I do train early. So, like, I'm around other people that have jobs and, like, they got to get in and out just like I do. Again, a lot more people that are just in it for the exercise to learn stuff. They're not really competing. So then I'm looking around and I'm just like, okay, so now do I just do what they do? Like, I'm kind of confused all of a sudden. Like, I was so, like, just, I'm going to go, as best I can at this competition. I'm going to do everything, give it everything I got. And then it's over. And I'm like, who am I? What do I do now? Like, I'm a little confused and lost. So hopefully I can have a better, handle that better this time around. But yeah, it is a weird feeling.
Yeah, and Andrew, some advice I give you is, like, in combat sports, experience is everything, but it's only everything if you actually learn from your experience. So it's like, if you know that bothers you when you're done, after you compete, you have the post-comp blues, dive into it. Dive into it when you're not competing. Dive into it when you're in training camp and you know it's about to come, and maybe try to figure out a way and, ask advice, ask your professor, ask your teammates what you do when you're done. What do I love asking people, their advice and their ideas of what they do in a situation like that. Like, for me, when I would fight, the scariest point for me was when they're like, hey, Winn, you're walking in 7 minutes. You're like, oh, shit, bro. Here we go. So and this is from my experience of competing my whole life, is I would think about that moment for 8 weeks straight.
Yeah.
On the way to training, in the car, when I'm sitting at the house, definitely before I go spar. So that you think about it so often that when the time comes, it's not overwhelming. It's kind of like that same thing Mason was talking about. It's like the more you do harder stuff, the easier it gets. It's the same concept. It's like the more you compete, the less nervous you'll get. You'll still be nervous, but the less nervous you'll get.
Mm-hmm. And that's when people talk about visualizing too. Like what you're talking about right now is visualization. Like you're putting yourself there in the locker room in the most anxiety-filled moments, and you're just living there and just getting comfortable there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That way, when it happens, you can just, okay, I've been here before. Every single day, I've been here every single day.
You want to force yourself to kind of get that butterfly, that cave in your stomach, that butterfly feeling, you know? And that's really doing hard things.
It's stress inoculation. I believe that's what they call it. So I was working with, his name's Julien Pinot, really awesome, like French accent, super smart guy. He's got like tattoos on his head and shit. Like he's a really good dude. But I'm explaining to him, I'm like, look, I know, like when I go to a competition and I'm just watching, just as a spectator, I see, the dudes my age, white belt, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know I'm better than these guys. It's really easy to say that when you're sitting in the stands. When you're on the mats, things are different. You get tunnel vision, you forget, everything goes out the window. And so he's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So he puts me on a stealth bike. It's just like an assault bike, but it's from Torque Fitness. So, the fan bike, so you're just going. So he has me going at a pretty decent pace, something that's not too easy, not too hard, but I'm able to like keep it up. And he's like, all right, we're going to do this for 10 minutes. And then so what he has me doing, he's like, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. All right, now think about the competition. And I'm like, okay. And so like my anxiety starts to build up. And then what happens is it gets hard to control the bike. Come back to your breath. Come back to your breath. Okay, cool. I got my breath back. This is easy again. All right, you're in the bullpen. You're getting ready to go up. Shit, okay, it's getting harder. So it's actually doing something active while thinking about those thoughts that kind of get you revved up. Every time you do it, you're introducing yourself just like a little micro dose of that situation, and to help you like suppress those feelings. So that way you can keep going. And man, I can tell you, dude, like as I get closer, it actually gets harder to come back to my breath. But in doing so, though, it's helping me prepare for those moments, because I am thinking about that thing where, the judge or the ref, he calls you out and you're just like, all right, cool, and slap hands with the guy and that sort of thing. I'm putting myself in all those scenarios. And that's something I didn't really do before because I just didn't know how. I didn't know what the venue was going to look like. Now I do. And so like I can put myself there and again, just hoping for the best. But at least this time I had a plan. I have a plan. Last time I didn't. And again, it's just like that stress inoculation, those microdoses of those little like those anxious thoughts. And I'm really excited because I feel really good going in. Last time I didn't feel that great. But yeah, it's those putting yourself in those bad situations. So when you actually, or not bad situations, sorry, those situations that do kind of get your heart rate going. So that way, when you actually get there, you're like, we've already been here. We're good.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit before we end the show. Let's definitely talk a little bit about the CJI, because
please.
That is the talk of the jiu-jitsu community right now. And I think, the combat sports community.
Yeah.
The Craig Jones Invitational. So for those of you guys, how much do you know about this, Deron?
I know a little bit. Like obviously, I follow Craig. I mean, I've met him a couple times. I know that he's trying to create a better process than the ADCC process for grapplers like yourself, and make sure that you guys are earning more guaranteed money, and then more money if you win. Really, it's money involved. And he's obviously the biggest troll on the internet. So I think it's a little bit of trolling as well. But when you got the power, you can troll like that in a serious manner. But I know that it's like to win a division at ADCCs is at $10,000.
$10,000 to win. There's no show money.
Your show money is $10,001.
So he made it $1 more just to show than you would make to win ADCC.
That's so crazy, bro.
And he's essentially doing this entire thing just as a troll, because he's not going to be making any money. He made the tournament a nonprofit. So he's not doing this to make money. He's doing it just literally as 100% as a troll. And also, to be fair, to build his own brand, because his brand is getting exponentially bigger through him doing this. he is going to have a match with Gabby Garcia, which is,
Are they really going to
more.
have that match?
They're going to have a match.
Oh my gosh!
Which Gabby Garcia is one of the most decorated female athletes of all time. So it's more. It's kind of a more of a spoof. It's not going to be a real like competitive high level jiu-jitsu match. And I'm sure he is going to get paid for that, but it's not like he's going to make some like crazy amount of money.
So they're
like I said before,
there at the CJI.
they're going to compete at the CJI. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, I'm sure he is going to get paid for that match, but I don't think he's going to make some absurd amount of money where that's how he's going to pocket a bunch of cash off the tournament. But yeah, it's mostly the whole thing is being done basically as a troll to ADCC. He was trying to work with ADCC and get some type of pay increase. I don't know if he was asking for show money or if he was asking for the prize money to get raised, but I know that he was trying to get some type of pay increase from ADCC. ADCC said no, the prize money is going to stay the same. And to play the devil's advocate, there's no pay for the Olympics, right? Like you don't try to win the Olympics to get some big prize money.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's
USA
more about the
Wrestling
prestige.
Has a fund for the athletes too. So
yeah, USA Wrestling will pay you, but the Olympics doesn't pay you.
Doesn't. Yeah.
But then, so I'm trying to give you guys both sides, right? So from ADCC's side, you don't win ADCC to win a prize money. You win to have the ADCC title. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just having the ADCC title isn't going to be enough because, if you're some Brazilian kid and you don't speak English, it's going to be hard to translate that into instructionals and seminars, right? But if you're able to market yourself, you can use that ADCC title to make way more money than if you didn't have it. So it is worth something, right? But then if you take that and then you go and see the response from Craig and their side is, yeah, if you win the Olympics, you're a fucking Olympic gold medalist. Everyone in the world knows what that means. You can go tell anyone, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Any old lady at the grocery store is going to know what that means. You could walk around and tell everyone you're an ADCC champion and people are going to say, what is ADCC?
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of like both sides of the argument there.
Yeah.
You know what I was kind of wondering is how I saw him post he had like $2 million in Ethereum or something like that's supplying the company. Like
$3 million.
$3 million. Was that is that investors? Like who gave him that money? And also here's the thing about that is the thing about the ADCCs is it's every 2 years. No, 4 years, I mean. Right?
2 years. Every 2 years.
2 years. So that's happening every 2 years. So the reality of it's just not manageable. It would be, you'd have to have $1 billion company to be able to have a CJI event every 2 years. Unless I'm wrong. Unless he's got it like that.
You're wrong.
He's forking out so much money, bro. Like, unless you have somebody who's supplying an limitless cash flow, it's just not manageable.
Okay, so here's the thing. The investor is an anonymous investor. He doesn't want to be named. He gave Craig $3 million, right? The $3 million is going to be used basically to run the tournament. I think it's going to cover most of the expenses. It's going to be $1 million for the over 80 kilograms division, $1 million for the under 80 kg division. And then there's going to be 32 athletes because there are two divisions of 16. All 32 athletes are going to make 10K. So that's 320,000. So now we're at 2.3 million. That leaves about 600,000 to, rent the venue, and then buy the mats and pay the employees and do whatever expenses they need. And then they are, obviously they're going to sell tickets. So here's the thing. If the investor wanted, from what I know, the investor doesn't want the money back, because if the investor wanted the money back or was expecting to make money, they would use the ticket sales to repay that $3 million, right? But what they're going to do, all the ticket sales are going to donate to charity, because they're a nonprofit. So not only are they a nonprofit and they're not looking to make any profit, but I don't think that the initial investor that gave Craig the $3 million even wants the $3 million back. It's not whether, because people are saying, oh, they can't run the tournament every year. You know, this guy's not going to make his money back, and then he's not going to dish out any more money. I think he's expecting to not get his money back. I think he gave the money to Craig, and he's just okay with it.
Yeah, but is he going to be willing to do that every 2 years?
I think so. I think he's willing to do it every year.
Yeah, we'll see. It sounds
because,
real
look,
good.
I know, but look, if he didn't want to lose the $3 million, why would he not invest the $3 million and then be expecting to get some of the money back from ticket sales?
Well,
I don't think he's taking any money back.
It's like he might be okay with losing $3 million, but is he okay with losing 6, 9?
Okay,
12, 15?
so here's the thing: if he's okay with losing $3 million, then why wouldn't he take the money back from the ticket sales? And let's say that covers half of it, 1.5, right? Why would he not take that 1.5 back and then use that to pay the purses in the next year? You see what I'm saying? So because of that, because they're donating the money to charity, that tells me that not only are they okay with just spending the $3 million, but if they're talking about doing it next year, that means that he's planning on doing that every year. Because if he wasn't planning on doing that every year, they would keep the ticket money. They wouldn't be donating it to charity. They can be a nonprofit. You sound real
optimistic, my boy. As a competitor, maybe be real loyal to the CJI, huh?
No, I'm just, it just doesn't make sense. I may or may not have a little inside information, but to me, it doesn't make sense to donate. It doesn't make sense for a nonprofit to be in the negative $3 million and then be donating all their money away to charity, because they can be a nonprofit and still take back the money and break even.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to,
as long as they're not making a profit, right?
Are they going to donate it every year?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but it's just, you hear when you're on the inside, you hear a little info here, a little something there. So
it's interesting.
Who knows? We'll see.
I wonder what this guy does.
With that being said, I will say that, obviously me dropping out of the ADCC in order to take this opportunity to potentially win $1 million. I haven't fully burned my bridge with ADCC, but I've kind of burnt it, right? I'm definitely expecting that I'm not going to get any invites, because I was actually invited. I didn't win the trials this year. So I'm definitely expecting that I burn my chances of getting another invite. Definitely. So basically they're not going to do me any favors. I don't think that they just completely hate me and are out to get me or anything like that, but I'm expecting that they're not going to do me any favors. Right. But what I will say is that I had it in my head that this was probably going to be my last ADCC, because at this point I'm 31. The next one's going to be in 2 years. I'm going to be 33. At that point, I'd like to have, my own academy and be focused more on, maybe trying to start a family, building my own businesses, and not necessarily being a full-time athlete. Right. So that's one reason that I was a little more open to the idea of switching over to the CJI. But
you don't necessarily plan on being a reoccurring competitor. This could be just 1 to 2 shots for you, and then you're kind of all right.
So for me personally, if this is a one-time thing, if this CJI was a one-time thing, that's not a big issue for me, because I might end up in the next 12 months, I might end up saying okay, I've been wanting to open a gym for a while. There's no more CJI. I burned my bridge with ADCC, so now's a good time to open the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's going to happen regularly. I do think that, but if not, it's not going to hurt me, right?
Hey, and then do you guys get paid in crypto, or will it be USD?
I'm not 100% sure. Not 100% sure on that one. Okay. I'm assuming it's going to go through the nonprofit and it'll be a check, but I'm not sure.
So outside of if we can just strip all the money stuff aside, or actually I guess maybe we can't, but with everything in consideration, what do you hope happens with the CJI? Because we've already seen, I don't know how real this was, but the stuff that Craig posted about the ADCC athletes actually starting to get paid I think it was $2,500 or something, potentially even before the competition, somebody a voice was changed saying that if anybody needs this money now, we can front the money. We don't have to do it after the event. Do you think that it's actually going to make a change where like grappling athletes or, you know, jiu-jitsu athletes might start actually seeing more money because now it's like, well, shoot, we just show up over there and we make $1 more than, you know, if we win here?
Yeah. So now there's already been some changes made with the payouts at ADCC. The women's divisions all have gotten increased. So now the women's divisions match the men's divisions. Before, the women used to make less than the men to win. So that's been increased. And then now every athlete that's competing at ADCC is getting $2,500 to show. So already because of this tournament, there's been some big changes made to the pay in ADCC. And I mean, at the end of the day, one of the most important things that we're going to get out of this is that the competition is going to be streamed live on YouTube for free.
Yes.
So we're going to be able to see all the metrics. They're going to basically release all the metrics. So we're going to see how many people were tuning into each athlete's matches. And that way we can see who, you know, the people want to see. For the longest time, jiu-jitsu, it hasn't been a spectator sport, and it's grown exponentially in the past few years. But we don't know how much it's grown because Flow Grappling has the numbers. And so there could be, who knows, there could be 1 million people that are watching these matches and that are subscribing and paying $30 a month. Flow Grappling could be sitting on a gold mine. We don't know. The athletes before, when no one was watching, were making $500. And then now, who knows how many people are watching, and then the athletes are still making $500. We don't have the metrics, so we can't really ask for more money because we don't know how much money is being made. So that's going to be one of the big changes, is that because it's free on YouTube, we're going to see the numbers, and then we're also going to be able to kind of gauge our own value by, you know, who's watching the individual matches.
Yeah.
You know, when someone comes on, when I come on, how many people were watching live compared to the other guys? Because now I know
It won't be
twice
me.
as many people are watching me, right? So, so now I can know, let's just say Deron Winn is on mat 1 and there's 4 viewers. Mason Fowler's on mat 2 with 20,000 viewers. You know, I better be getting paid more than Deron Winn when we compete on the same card.
My stream's out over here.
Yeah.
These numbers aren't accurate, man. I can't be right.
This can't be right, dog. This shit is rigged.
Doing it on YouTube, I think, is like, you know, streaming it for free is, I think, the best move that he could have done. I mean, obviously, yeah, bringing in insane prize money. I've never seen anything like that as far as, like, you know, a purse that big in grappling. But doing it on YouTube, you're absolutely right. That was my first thought was, okay, this, you know, combat sports in general, obviously not UFC, but everything else isn't like a household thing, right? I think this is how you break into way more homes in, you know, at least in America, because, like, you know, I'll talk to my dad about like jiu-jitsu and stuff, and he'll be like, do you break boards? And I'm like, no, dude, like it's not just because I wear, you know, a gi, it doesn't mean that like we're all doing like karate moves and shit. So I think this will just elevate jiu-jitsu as a whole, and for that I am extremely grateful that he's putting it out there for free. I think dude, this has potential to like be like one of the biggest chapters in jiu-jitsu sports, because it'll be like, holy shit, after that this all changed. And it's just wild, the freaking balls of this guy, because to do it on the same weekend in the same place, like, because my first thought was like, dude, I was so excited to see all these names go to ADCC, and then boom, one by one, I'd see the post like, shit, okay, we're not going to see that match. Like, shit, we're not going to see that match. You know, it was very frustrating. But then, you know, I seen Mason go over, and I'm like, oh shit, this is a lot bigger than I thought. And so now it's like, all right, well, I was frustrated that I'm not going to get to see this big tournament. Now I'm going to watch 2 tournaments. So I was a little initially like, why couldn't they be on 2 separate weekends or whatever it may be? But in order to make the bigger impact, it does have to happen on the same weekend. And I don't know if he had a team behind this that planned it all out, or if it was literally him just being like, I'm going to be the biggest troll and I'm going to make the biggest impact. This is how we're going to do it. And if that's the case, this guy is way smarter than anybody is giving him credit for. Because like I said, after this, I'm positive that jiu-jitsu will be different moving forward.
I think that he came up with the idea on a bender, and then it's like, you know, when you and your friends are on a bender and you talk about starting a business, and then the next day, like, you forget all about it.
Especially
I feel
on nose beers, like he says.
I think he was on some nose beers, and he went on a bender, and he talked to a bunch of people about starting a business, and then they just actually did it, which is crazy. I actually think, like, 100%, being honest with you guys, I think that that's how this tournament started.
So then maybe I gave him too much credit for what I just said.
Don't give him too much credit. Yeah. Don't give him too much credit.
Are you gonna miss missing out on ADCC though?
Yes and no, because the bracket that I'm in could be bigger than the bracket I was supposed to be in. So I mean, already there's already a lot of big names in the bracket. We'll see what the final bracket looks like, but there's a couple names that might be in it that might just be insane that I never thought I would get the chance to compete against. So,
yeah,
I mean, but
yeah,
like,
we'll see.
what are the numbers for like ticket sales? Like, because Mason, remember, I came to the last one in 2020, right? It was 2020,
2019 or 2022.
2020. It was 2019.
Where was it at? Where was it?
It was in LA.
That was the trials.
That was the trials? No, it wasn't. It was the ADCCs. Because I remember I was in town for Bellator fight.
Oh, it was in Anaheim. It was in Anaheim?
Anaheim. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
I
2019.
was there during the finals.
Yeah,
And
that
like,
was 2019.
The arena was only one side. Like, there was only like they put everybody on one side, like the fan base, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there couldn't have been more than a couple thousand people there. Right?
But probably somewhere between maybe like around 8,000.
Really? That many?
Maybe.
I mean, the tickets sell out every year.
No, that was 2019 though. That was the last year before it got really big.
And then how many tickets do they sell a year? Do you know, Andrew?
The last one sold, I think, 14,000, and then this one's projected to sell.
Is it a 3-day tournament?
2 day.
2 day. So just throughout the 2 days, 14,000 people. Or do you have to get a new ticket every day?
No, I think that's 14,000 tickets, and then your ticket lasts 2 days. And then this one's going to be, I think, whatever T-Mobile Arena holds. It's at T-Mobile Arena. So Craig rented out the Thomas and Mack Center, which is where they did ADCC in 2022. So his whole thing is like his whole argument was the T-Mobile Arena only holds a few thousand more people. So it's not like you doubled the size of the arena, right? It's a slightly bigger arena, but it costs an extra $2 million. That was his whole point, is like, don't spend the extra money on an arena and on production. Spend the extra money on the athletes. That's his whole kind of argument.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why he's holding it.
Difference, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why he's holding it at the Thomas and Mack Center. He's saying, look, you could have done it here and you could have paid the athletes that extra $3 million, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
It's crazy. I mean, what he's doing is absolutely insane. I'm way too much of a pussy to do what he's doing. Like, and it just seems like he just doesn't care. Like, he's just like, whatever. He's just making a joke out of the whole thing. But I would be walking around with anxiety if I was doing what he's doing. Because there's a lot of people that probably want him dead.
That's the thing that happens. We talked about a little bit earlier in the episode with the MMA community, of them talking about how, the UFC fighters should get paid more. But the problem is the dudes who can take a stand won't, because they're getting paid the money that they need to be getting paid.
Yeah,
so they're too nervous to step up and miss out on their relationship with the company, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for Craig to be doing that, I mean, he's like a pioneer, bro. Literally.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So when does camp start?
Camp starts, I'm doing kind of like a pre-camp right now, so I've been focusing a lot on strength, and I'm honestly trying not to go too hard too early because we're still like 9 weeks out. So I'm training consistently still. I'm still doing my training schedule, but I haven't really started to redline it yet. I'm just really focusing on my strength training, and then I'm teaching a jiu-jitsu camp next week, and as soon as I get back from the camp, I'm gonna start like full on go mode. That'll be about 7 weeks out. So I'll do like a 7-week, like really hard camp. I'm in like I think it like pre-camp right now.
Do you plan on doing anything different? Because, last time we spoke, I had asked you, like, what do you like better, tournament versus like, matches, like, big time events at like UFC and stuff. Does your preparation change as opposed to like one fight versus a tournament style?
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to necessarily game plan for each individual person because there's 15 people in the bracket, but I will be watching some tape. And it's good that I had that match with Nicky Rod because I got to see a couple things that I did wrong. So just working on more so myself and just being the most complete athlete that I can be. And just working more so on sprinting because this format, it's going to be 3 5-minute rounds. It's not... Most jiu-jitsu matches are like 15 minutes straight with no breaks. The CJI is going to have 2 1-minute breaks in between. So it's going to be more of a sprint. So instead of playing like that really kind of slow paced jiu-jitsu style, I'm definitely going to switch my training into more just like sprints. A lot of scrambling and sprinting for 5 minutes at a time.
Dude, that's amazing. So do you like the idea of having rounds like that?
Yeah, I mean, coming from MMA, that's how I always started. So those like long 10 and 15-minute rounds would be like, oh my God. But I like it. I'm pretty good at scrambling, and I'm pretty explosive too. So I think the short rounds is going to be a lot better for my style.
So even at that level, do you think sorry for, again, this might sound stupid, but like, is 5 minutes enough time at that level to be able to develop a game plan for each competitor, set things up, and then execute on, that setup?
It's just going to force, I like it. It's going to force action. You're not going to be able to just cook someone for 20 minutes and then submit them at the end. You're going to have to really go for it. And so I think for me, just making sure that my anaerobic capacity is really high and I'm able to just sprint, recover, and just making sure that I'm able to just scramble. My scrambles are on point and not necessarily thinking of specific sequences.
Got it. And then so with that in mind, what exactly will you be doing in training? Because, as far as I understand, to get better like mat cardio, you have to be on the mat. So like, how are you going to simulate some of this stuff, being able to go for 5-minute rounds, fast and quick? Yeah,
we do a lot of situational training, and I'm glad a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes don't really have like a full-time head coach. Even like Craig and Nikki over at B Team, they don't have like a head coach. So I'm really lucky that I'm in a position where I have a head coach. He's going to be running my training sessions, and he's really good at setting up the training for me. So just to give you an example, it would be like 5 1-minute goes with a new guy every time, or like something crazy like that, right? So he splits the rounds for me. He gives me specific goals during the training. And, doing the training like that is what's helped me to get to the level that I'm at. And hopefully it'll, make me $1 million richer.
Hey, is it going to be ADCC rules?
It's going to be MMA, like MMA rules, bro. So it's going to be 10-9 rounds.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be like 3 5-minute rounds, and they're going to score it like MMA.
No, I'm talking about like starting from your feet, not being able to pull guard.
You can pull guard. Yeah.
So
and it's going to be
more
in a pit.
like traditional, like IBJJF.
Yeah. Hey, but it's going to, I mean, there's not going to be like points or advantages or anything like that. They're going to score it like MMA, but you're going to be able to do all the same stuff that you would do in a jiu-jitsu match. But it's going to be in a pit. Like, have you seen the Karate Combat?
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to do a Karate Combat style pit. So that way people aren't just constantly going out of bounds, which is like one of the biggest problems in jiu-jitsu. Guys will just back up, and then if you shoot on them and you're about to take them down and you go out of bounds, they'll just reset you in the middle. Yeah. So that's one of the most annoying parts about jiu-jitsu.
So there's going to be some low-key like miniature wall work there. So you get stuck on the wall.
Because it's like a slanted wall. Yeah.
Sick.
Ooh,
Sick.
are you gonna
Being
have to
an ex-MMA fighter should give you a little bit of an advantage there, right?
For sure. And I'm
Forward.
usually pretty good at controlling the center.
Mhm.
And, you know, if anything, it's usually me driving guys out of bounds. So that's going to prevent that.
Yeah, are you gonna be able to gain access to a pit to try to train on?
That's what I thought about. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. We got to try to like build one so that way you can have one in house and get
Yeah, that would be
training on
pretty
there.
sick. Yeah, that would be pretty sick.
Yeah, dude,
Tell Kyle to get to work, bro.
for real.
I know.
Dude, no,
I know.
I love the idea of that pit because, like, I mean, I train in the gi, and so when I see dudes at trials and like, you know, there's like that very like popular video where like dudes are like literally like in the hallway at the like hotel that they're competing at, and like they're still going. I always thought that was super weird that they just
Yeah,
keep
it's
going.
insane.
So having
They
that,
keep going on the concrete, bro.
yeah, dude, it's weird. I do not like it. It seems like such a
Crazy.
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be mean, but it seems very broy to just like keep fighting outside.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem
Yeah.
like, you know, I understand that, like, especially no gi, it's more realistic, and it doesn't get any more realistic than not having in out of bounds. But having that pit, I think, it's just gonna make everything more exciting. So not only is this going to be put in front of more people, but it's going to be more action. It's going to look way more exciting than, you know, again, I love the gi, but I can see why somebody would think it's boring, or, you know, some of these matches that it's just like an endless sprawl until somebody gets into a good position, which I don't enjoy, but it happens and I'll watch it. But if I were to have, you know, just a everyday person that watches UFC or that watches boxing and be like, hey, check this out, and then it's like some actual like action, and, you know, there's like a you know, so then what's the point? Like, how do you score points in you know, in this scenario if it's, you know, if it's scored like MMA?
Basically, if you win the round, like let's say that you swept the guy,
Mhm.
instead of it being 2-0, it's just going to be a 10-9 round. Let's say you swept the guy past his guard, mounted him, so you were like dominating the round, then it would be like a 10-8 round.
Do you know if the audience will be able to see some of that?
Yeah, they're going to announce the score
Okay.
during the 1 minute break, so it's going to be open scoring.
Okay.
Oh, that's
'Cause, yeah,
Which is good too.
That's
because then
important.
if the guy's down, he's going to go for it, and that's going to cause a lot of action too, right?
Yeah.
I think that they should go to open scoring in MMA too.
For sure, 100%. It would make it way more exciting.
Yeah, even though it can be confusing, like, you know, again, when you're watching somebody compete at IBJJF, you can see the scoreboard and you're like, oh shit, I can't believe the ref gave him points for that or whatever. But like, you can see, dude, you got to go now because you're down points. So that's going to be,
Yeah,
dude, that's huge.
way better.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I gotta get to training. We got to wrap up.
Yeah, I gotta
man.
get going too, brother.
That was
I'm trying to
awesome.
win $1 million.
Yeah, dude. All right, let's let everybody know where they can find you guys, and then, you know, we'll head out.
You go, Mason. All right. Yeah, you can just find me. I'm just at Deron Winn. All my social medias are just at Deron Winn. You know, I keep it basic these days. I have no more tag usernames. Just my name, DeronWinn on really everything, on Instagram, Twitter. Not really on TikTok much, but maybe I'll start amping it up a little bit.
Guys, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, at Mason Fowler, BJJ.
On LinkedIn, dog.
I'm kidding. Man. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Yeah, mine is just at I am Andrew Z all over the place. Please make sure you guys like this video, subscribe all over the place, you know, Spotify especially, but like iTunes, all that stuff. Leave reviews wherever you can. Sincerely appreciate that, and thanks for checking out this first episode.